There are three bad experiences that taught me that max-funded IUL was absolutely the best financial repository for money when I had these setbacks. So I'm Doug Andrew, and I've been a financial strategist and a retirement planning specialist now for 5 decades, helping thousands of people in America optimize assets, minimize taxes, and empower what I call their authentic wealth. I have been extremely blessed thus far, having written 12 best-selling books. I've got several more in me. I'm 71 right now, but as I look over my career, there are three bad experiences that come to my mind almost instantly that taught me the value of having liquid money safely tucked in my IUL insurance contracts. Now, if you've watched very many of my episodes on this channel, I tout the living benefits of max-funded indexed universal life insurance to be used for retirement. It knocks the socks off of traditional IRAs and 401ks. It could be used as an emergency fund, working capital for business, real estate management. But it actually saved my bacon when I had three bad experiences. So here we go. The first bad experience started from 1978 to 1982. Was a culmination. And I tell this story in my book, and there's critics out there that say, you're a financial advisor and you admit this? Yeah, it's probably one of the best stories I tell. In a nutshell, in 1978, my wife Sherry and I built our second home. It was actually the second home we built, but the third home we purchased. It was our dream home, okay? It was a 6,400 square foot home with cathedral beam wood deck ceilings, and it sat on 2 acres on a canyon rim in central Utah. And I was preparing to get a helicopter and fly home from work because it was on a canyon rim and we wouldn't disturb any neighbors and everything like that. We would sit on the master bedroom deck at night and watch the deer and elks bed down in the scrub oak below. It was awesome. The home was going to be featured in Better Homes and Garden magazine. Well, we had 3 things happen to us we never dreamed would happen simultaneously. This began in 1980. For those of you who are as old as me will remember 1980, the energy crisis. There were long lines at gas stations. Well, in Houston, Texas, okay, during that gasoline energy crisis, in 1980, 16,000 homes got foreclosed on. Now, 16,000 homeowners didn't all of a sudden become bad people. They just couldn't make their mortgage payments, okay? And so that rippled throughout the country. I lived in Utah. And so a couple of years later, there were 3 things that happened. I never dreamed would happen simultaneously. And the big thing was a supervisor above us in our company had been embezzling money that belonged to us. Okay, I'm talking about me and 2 other agents. And when we discovered this, he had the company freeze our income, and they did while they investigated this, and then they found that he was guilty, but it was too late. They froze our income for 9 months. Now, we didn't have any income. So we had this beautiful home, and I had the mortgage payment was due. And so, fortunately, I had a timeshare at a ski resort that I sold for triple what I paid for it. And I brought the delinquent mortgage current. Then I got behind again, and I sold a duplex that I owned, that I had built and lived in prior to that. And we brought the delinquent mortgage current a second time. But not seeing any light at the end of the tunnel, we put that house up for sale. Now, back in 1980, that 6,400 square foot home appraised for $305,000 a couple of years earlier. I listed it for $295,000. No takers. When there's more supply than demand, what happens? The values go down. I lowered the price down to $285,000, $275,000, $265,000, $225,000, $195,000. Now, I will never forget the day my wife and I went to the county courthouse in Provo, Utah, and on the courthouse steps at the sheriff's auction, we watched that beautiful home get foreclosed on. Okay. Now, we went out that very day and bought another home with no money down and no credit. I have never paid money out of my pocket to satisfy a down payment. I satisfy down payments, but I don't pay it out of my pocket. The reason I had so much equity in that $300,000 home, I had $150,000, is because I built it for $150,000 when I moved in and appraised for $300,000. I thought I had the world by the tail. That $150,000 of equity in 1982 meant absolutely nothing but a number on a sheet of paper if I couldn't access it. The lesson I learned was incredible. I learned that real estate equity was not liquid if you really needed it, okay? When you need it the worst, it's the hardest to get. A lender is not going to loan you money unless you have the ability to repay. They don't care how much equity you have, okay? Number two, you don't have safety of principal. That real estate can go down in value, and you will lose if you leave it in there, okay? Number three, that the rate of return on real estate equity is always the same, 0. The house is going to go up or down in a value regardless of whether it's mortgaged to the hilt or free and clear. It has nothing to do with your equity having a rate of return. When you keep the equity separated, you can have a rate of return greater than the net cost of the mortgage. That was a huge epiphany. And I went out and told that story, and my book became a bestseller. And ever since then, through any major recession, I have never lost one dime of equity in my real estate when the real estate markets went down. And I've always maintained liquid assets as safely earning returns. And my favorite vehicle was money in a max-funded indexed universal life insurance contract, generally earning 9 or 10% average rates of return. Whereas the net cost of a mortgage, it might be 3% because I borrow at 4.5% tax deductible interest in a 33% bracket. That's 3. How much more is 9 than 3? It's 300%. It's 3 times. On $1 million mortgage, I'm paying $30,000 a year, but I'm making $90,000 on the $1 million that I don't put into the property. Does that make any sense? And you'll actually get out of debt faster by keeping the money separated. That was a game changer for me. Let's skip to the next bad experience. A few years after that, I had an agent, for whatever reason, he decided to take my copier, my computers, and use them as collateral to borrow money from a bank. I had no idea until they came to foreclose on the copier and the computer. And I said, what are you doing? These are mine. And they looked at the serial number and I said, well, these were pledged as collateral. I said, by who? And how sad was that? He also wrote a bunch of bogus business. He ended up straightening up a few years later, but that set me back quite a ways. And I'm glad I had liquid money in my insurance contract that I could make ends meet while I was paying off some of the debt that he left me with. The third bad experience is sort of similar to that, and it was about 15 years later, and there were 3 agents that devised this scheme of bartering, and they were using gold, but there was really no gold backing it. And when it finally came crashing down, the 3 of them had to go to court, and they were convicted. But it left me, because I was the supervisor, had no clue what they were doing, but with the company, it left me to pay off their fraudulent debt they left. So they're serving time, and I'm paying off $250,000. I was glad that I had the ability in my max-funded IUL to do that and stay afloat. There's other stories I could tell, but let me tell you, I use a max-funded indexed insurance contract, structured correctly and funded properly. If it's done that way, it is deemed a laser fund. Now, laser is an acronym that I've used for years that stands for Liquid Asset Safely Earning Returns. And that is a property structured max-funded IUL. When you use that as your safe repository, when you have bad experiences, you have liquid money available to you. It's safe for market downturns, and it's earning a predictable rate of return. And in my career, my rates of return have usually been at least 3 times more than the net cost of the funds if I am using safe positive leverage. The ability to own and control assets with very little or none of my money tied up at risk in that asset. And what does that mean? If I have a piece of real estate, I may mortgage it to the hilt. $1 million mortgage, 80% loan to value on a first mortgage, and the other 20% if you have good credit on a second mortgage. But I keep that $1 million separate in my max funded IUL, earning a rate of return averaging 9 to 10%. Let's just say 9. I've averaged 9.6% since 1980. 9% tax-free, cash on cash. That's after all costs of insurance. Many times I borrowed money on real estate at 4.5% interest, tax deductible, in a 33% bracket. That's a net cost of 3. If you're connecting the dots, every $1 million that I'm paying 3% out of my pocket, $30,000 a year, I'm making $90,000 on my laser fund, which is 300% more. Would you hire an employee that made you 3 times what they're costing you? Would you buy a widget machine that made you 3 times what the widget machine costs? That's called a 300% return on employment cost or equipment cost. I am grateful for bad experiences because I have learned more from my bad experiences in life than the good ones. So if you would like to learn also how you can do this, optimize your assets, minimize taxes, and empower what I call your authentic wealth from a 3-dimensional viewpoint, claim a copy of my book, The Laser Fund, and I talk about our approach, our holistic approach in the book. This is actually 2 books in one. It retails on Amazon for $20 plus shipping, and if you go there to purchase one, thank you, but I'll pay for the book. And I'll gift you a free copy, but you must contribute towards the shipping and handling. I require some skin in the game. But I was saying, this is actually 2 books in one. This side is about 200 pages, 14 chapters with all the charts and graphs and explanations if you're a left brain learner. If you're more of a right brain learner, you flip the book over to this one, and this one is about 100 pages, 12 chapters with 62, chicken soup for the financial soul stories of how the Laser Fund is the dream solution for many, many different financial goals, not just retirement, college funding for your kids and grandkids, emergency funds, working capital for business, real estate management. It's my favorite repository, and you'll see why. So how do you claim a free copy? Simply go to laserfund.com, click on the link below, contribute towards the shipping and handling. I'll cover the rest of that. I'll pay for the book. I'll fire out a hard copy to you via priority mail. When you're in there claiming your free copy of the book, if you like to listen and learn or watch and learn, check out those options. You can even get a bundle and get this book also, Entitlement Abolition. These are my 2 best sellers by far. And we have regular free webinars. You can even schedule an appointment to talk to an IUL professional, a certified professional that can help you understand how to apply these strategies in your particular set of circumstances with no cost or obligation. Is that fair enough? So this is about you and your brighter future.